All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Who's Right podcast, and we're back after a couple weeks. And just checking into what's going on in spring training. But before we get started, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and let us know how you're feeling. But Victor, how you feeling?
Doing great. We've got baseball happening just next week. Mets baseball happening in less than 2 weeks away. Man, we're excited to get this season started. Everything tries to keep us down from injuries to news, ups, but we can't keep these Mets fans down. I'm a little bummed because I was looking at ticket prices for this year earlier, and they're not great. We're gonna have to see about going to maybe like a Tuesday evening game when no one's going there because they might be ridiculous. But Mets baseball is about to be back. We've got a lot of things to be excited about.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And sorry, guys, about the technical difficulties, but you know how it is on the first day back. And so here we are, getting to it. But again, lots been happening. We wanted to get to you. Most likely, this will be our regular schedule. Our schedule is going to be more Sunday nights. We're going to this year, we're going to change things up. Instead of doing it after every series, we're going to do it once a week. And it's going to be Sunday nights. And so this is going to be our regular schedule. So this week, we're going to catch up on everything that's been going on. And next week, we're going to do our preview show. And then we're going to go from there. But guys, what's been happening? Clay Holmes is the starter for opening day, and we should have seen this coming. Because he's the guy that's other than us thinking that Sean Manaea would have been the guy. He's the guy that's been ramping up the most. Right, he's the most ready to start on opening day, and at the end of the day, it makes sense. And it's in Houston. It's not like it's the home opener.
Yeah, starting on a positive note, I appreciate that because, and I don't even know if this is a positive note. It's just a note because I think what this signifies is the end of an era in Mets baseball. For so long, we got used to starting pitching being the definition of Mets baseball, and I think that ended over the past couple of years with DeGrom being the last real starting pitcher, real ace to get us started for the year. And that's not such a bad thing. It's just more strategic. I think the Mets picture now is more long term instead of hoping and what happens on opening day. Because at the end of the day, opening day doesn't matter in October. It doesn't even matter in the grand scheme of things. How often do you remember a starting pitcher starting opening day? For the past couple of years, we can throw out some names, but I remember the most memorable starting pitcher that I have as a recent memory is Tyler McGill, and that's because he filled in twice for injuries. And so Clay Holmes getting the start, good for him. I know that probably feels good, even though we know that it's kind of like a default for him. We know that it's a morale booster for him that he gets to go straight into starting pitching and starting on opening day. And so don't hate the decision. A lot of fans might have said David Peterson would have been better in that role or Kodai Senga, but like we said, we're playing for the long game, not the short game. Who cares what happens on opening day? We care about what happens after that.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, don't tell Sproat. I think he's going to want to be that ace for the long term for the Mets. So don't tell Sproat. And yes, we're in a season. Kind of like Evan Roberts said on the Rico Bronya. We're in a season where we have we don't have a starting a pitcher that's going to be opening day guaranteed every year. Last year was Jose Quintana, and so it's we're in a season that since the Grom we haven't had an opening starter, but I think with the young guys coming up, I think one of these guys will eventually be that opening day starter, or maybe Sandy in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves because even with a Brandon Sproat, he's unproven right now. Obviously, we love the dream of a Brandon Sproat or even a Blake Tidwell, but or even a Sandy Alcantara, but they're not proven yet. So let's hold our horses here and let's focus on what's in front of us for a second.
Yeah. Sandy could be in front of us. Who knows? But anyways, I digress. At the end of the day, I'm confident in Clay Holmes. I think he's going to have a decent year. So I'm not too worried about it. And him being an opening day starter, it's like by the All Star break, our rotation can look different, meaning the way things are slotted. So, because Manai will be back and Senga might be at full strength. And so, it could completely look different. Peterson could be lights out like he expects to be. So, opening day, love it. Clay Holmes, get the job done, and we move on from there. So
Yeah, and you remember last year, we went into the year not having a surefire ace, and look at the magical year we had in front of us, and none of us were expecting it, and so I expect the same thing this year. Maybe not to the same degree, but the starting pitching age for the Mets is officially in a transition period.
yeah, no, for sure, and it's okay. It's okay because we got Juan Soto, so it's all good. It's all good. Next thing we're going to talk about today, McNeil injury. As we can see, the last few days in spring training, um, they really want Brett Beatty to take the job. I think it's obvious. The question is, the injury kind of solidified Brett Beatty being the major leaguer to start the season. The question is, who's that other guy? Is it Walton? Is it De Los Santos? Or is it Luis Angel Acuna? To be honest with you, I don't think, from what I see, one, Luis Angel hasn't had a great spring training. Two, I don't see them wanting him to sit on the bench. They're going to want him to play every day. So, if for me, I think Luis Angel Acuna is going to start the year in AAA, depending on how well Beatty does, and honestly, how well Siri does, because he's going to be the wild card in the outfield, right? And with Jet Williams and Luis Angel Acuna, I think he's going to start the year in AAA, and I think in AAA he's going to get some run at center field and check him out there. So I think that's what's going to start, and I think Walton is going to be the guy that makes the squad over De Los Santos, and until McNeil, because McNeil's injury is not that long. Or at least we hope, because hopefully this week we'll get more clarity, and we'll find out how long the injury will be, if it's just 3 to 4 weeks that they mentioned, or if it's going to be longer.
Yeah. Hey, I'll say this right now. Don't sleep on Jose Siri. He's my breakout player of the year. He's had a pretty decent spring so far. Obviously, he still strikes out a lot, but he's hit what, like 3 homers so far or something like that. 3 extra base hits at least, and I expect big things from him this year. And so he's got some control. So I hope that he does break out. But as far as Luis Angel Acuna goes, I've been waiting to talk about this for a while because a lot of you Mets fans forget. A lot of Mets fans are clamoring for Luis Angel to make the start over Brett Beatty. But how many of you guys remember when Brett Beatty came up to the league? And how many of you guys even remember last year at the beginning of the league? I remember we did a podcast last year with a Braves fan, and he was singing praises for Brett Beatty, saying, "Hey, this kid looks good. This kid is awesome, and the sky's the limit for him." And then I said, hold your horses because he's not proven yet. And and ended up being the case because we had to wait. And I'm still a Brett Beatty believer, and I still believe that he still has that top prospect talent in him. But I'll say the same thing for Luis Angel. Don't let the 2 weeks last year fool you for what he still needs to develop in as a player. That's not to say that he's not going to be good, but I think he still does need that time to develop because obviously he's got the defense down. He's a stellar defender, and he would be a spectacle to watch with Francisco Lindor or even in outfield playing A+ defense. But he's not had a horrible spring, but he's hitting 222 with like around a 600 OPS, and that's not gonna cut it in the major leagues. You can talk about the defense all you want, but if you're not producing, then we see how far that gets you. We saw how far that got Harrison Bader last year. Yes, he got paid $10 million, but how often did he get the start over Tyrone Taylor, who had the hotter bat at that time? And so, yes, send Luis Angel down to the minor leagues. Let him work on some stuff. At the end of the day, it's not going to hurt him. He's still, 22, 23 years old. He's still got a lot of time to develop. This is Brett Beatty's last chance, though. Obviously, he's got one more year of minor league options, but he's not going to use that. This is the year. He's already hit that AAA pitching, and people call him a quad A player. But I really believe that this is the year that he breaks out and establishes his role on this team. If not as a second baseman, then as a third baseman. Because at the end of the day, we love to say it, but Mark Vientos' job is not safe at third base because he doesn't play an A+ defense. You know who does play an A+ defense is Brett Beatty. And I'm not saying that Mark Vientos isn't going to hit because I think he's going to hit. But we're looking at a new age of general manager where he doesn't care about any of your feelings or your past accolades. If a player is better at the position, and we saw this last year a bunch, then he's going to play them. That happened with even Jeff McNeil last year that's how he lost his job the first time. Obviously, he got hurt, but he was slowly getting that playing time taken away when Jose Iglesias came up and started playing a better second base. And so this is Brett Beatty's chance to take that second base job, but also solidify himself as a major leaguer this year.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the other part is that not only is it like you said, Brett Beatty's year to make or break year to become a major leaguer, but it also enhances his trade value, right? Because right now he's untradeable because we're going to get a bucket of balls if we trade him right now. And so if he can start off hot or start off decent, he becomes a valuable trade piece potentially for the Mets. And Luis Angel is still a trade piece for the Mets. That doesn't mean Luis Angel is along for the team as well. So it's one of those things that, like you said, Brett Beatty, it's his make or break year. I know that Mets fans are tired of seeing it, kind of like similar to a Jeff McNeil, but for the overall look for the Mets, you need Brett Beatty to show something, at least to bring up his trade value. And so you need Brett Beatty to get off hot, or not hot, but just get off the ground running. So he either becomes that trade piece, or he becomes the Brett Beatty that we've been expecting for a few years now. So and I think the Mets want that just because of the way they've been sending him out these last few days. Once we heard about Jeff McNeil, they don't want to lose out, because if Jeff McNeil doesn't make the team, he has no trade value. He's going to end his career with the Mets, maybe go somewhere else, but with the Mets, he's going to end his career in the minor leagues. And become a free agent and then go somewhere else. So right now, Brett Beatty has to be the guy to make it. And Luis Angel still hasn't proven himself. 2 weeks is great. Brett Beatty had two great weeks as well, like you said. And Luis Angel's got to prove himself in AAA and get the job done there, and say, just like Mark Vientos, say, why did you send me down? And prove it, right? Obviously, the whole talk last year is some guys just like the bigger spotlight, and that might be true about Luis Angel Acuna. But at the end of the day, you're going to be sent down because I think that's what they're going to do, and you got to be like Mark Vientos yesterday and just ball out in AAA and just knock on the door, just like Mark Vientos did last year.
Yeah, and that's the perfect point to end this whole conversation, because how many of us were thinking last year, going into the year, that man, if Brett Baty doesn't prove it this year, then we're gonna go have to go out and look for a third baseman. And obviously he didn't prove that, but March Vientos did. And how expensive would this offseason have been if we would have gone and signed an Alex Bregman or someone else of that caliber? Because we know that we're in a win now mode, and Steve would have gone out and paid top dollar for a third baseman to solidify his lineup. That same thing could happen at second base, where one of these guys, Brett Baty or Luis Angel or Ronald Mauricio later on, comes up and solidifies that spot at second base. Because guess what? Jeff McNeil has one more year here. Uh, Not this year, but next year he's going into free agency, and we're going to need a long-term second baseman. And how much better is it going to feel that we have one of these kids under long-term control that is playing elite defense, and or maybe not even elite defense in Brett Baty's case, but providing that 20 home run power and that high OPS that we don't have to worry about going out and signing a second baseman, and increasing that that Cohen tax, because he still has goals to get under that thing, and that's not going to happen if we don't develop the talent that we have now. So all of us Mets fans should be rooting for a Brett Baty at the very least to do well, because one, it brings up the prospects like you said, but two, it'll help us in the long run not have to go after these top free agent prospects or talents.
Absolutely, and you got to offset, right? You want some off a free agent talent, just like a Juan Soto, but because that Juan Soto contract is so huge, you want some guys from the minor leagues to offset that payroll. And so, it's just the way it is. We want those prospects to do it. And so, but let's move on. Let's get to the next point. Is our pitching staff, right? Um, you know, um, we DFA'd Sean Reed Foley, which makes it look like Max Kranick is going to be in this bullpen to start the year, and he's been pitching well. Obviously, yesterday was a little hiccup. He gave up 2 runs, but so did Clay Holmes after they get called for opening day. But spring training, they were going to end up giving up runs eventually. But Max Kranick looked really good this spring, and he could be a valuable piece out of that bullpen.
I hope so, man. Matt Tranick is an interesting case, because I don't remember where I heard it, but he pitched what 4 or 5 scoreless or perfect innings in his debut as in the Pirates organization. Not a surprise that they pulled him, but he's one of those cases where he's got that lights out stuff. He can strike them out. He can get those. Uh, Ensue those ground balls, and he's shown that skill out here in camp. And it's going to be, those injuries always hurt, because obviously they're top arms, and we never want to see anyone get hurt. But in Manaya's case, it sounds like he's okay. In Montas's case, he was a reclamation project anyway, but it gives these guys who wouldn't have had a chance to make the team get a chance in the major leagues to prove it. Because much like Brett Baty, this could be Max Kranick's opportunity to prove himself as a major league reliever, or maybe even a major league pitcher in general, because he did start out as a starter. And so I'm excited for that. Obviously, excited for Clay Holmes to see that in action, because, like you said, spring training doesn't really count, and I'm glad that they got hit in spring training, because maybe they needed a little taste of that. And they don't want to go full spring training and not get hit, because I think that would have derailed them a little more. Now they can take a little time to work on their stuff a little more, even though it's only a week and a half away. But Clay Holmes, man, all I've got to say about these pitchers is shout out to our pitching lab, and we've heard a lot of that praise from pitchers that have come through here before. But the fact that we're able to work with both of these guys, Krennic and Holmes, develop new pitches for them and make them serious major league prospects or major league ready pitchers is a big deal and a good sign for the Mets moving forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Pitching lab is working, and it's going to be great to see how the rest of this bullpen turns out next week. We're going to have our predictions of the season. But most likely by the time we're on, most of the team roster is going to be already filled out. So we won't get into that. But I think since the last time we spoke, you mentioned it, the Montas injury, and Manayo, I think, was the last video that we put out there, and the guys that we're looking at is McGill, Canning, and Blackburn, and Blackburn was a little shaky in the beginning, but the last outing kind of looked good. And Canning, in his first kind of real look in the spring training, looked good. Which makes me believe that he's going to start out in the bullpen since this late. He's kind of got his first look at spring training, but and then McGill had a rough outing today, but most of the spring training he's looked good, and so I think he's gonna, he ends up in this rotation every year somehow. Even though we try to get him out of the rotation, he ends up in this rotation every year. At the beginning, with Manaya coming in, we thought he was going to start the year in the minors, but McGill, I think, is going to start this year on the rotation. Blackburn's going to be the other guy, and because we don't need a sixth starter right away, I think Canning is going to start out in the bullpen.
Yeah, it's really tricky, and I'm interested to see that opening day roster when it comes out because you got guys like Daniel Nunez that has been hurt. He's still dealing with some aches and pains, and AJ Minter, who looked good in his last outing, but he was expected to come in the year on the IL, and that would have made some room for Tyler McGill to make the team. But if they do make the team, then sadly, it looks like Tyler McGill is going to the minors to start the year because he does have that optionality. And Blackburn and Griffin Canning, although he's outperformed them, they don't have that optionality. And so I hope that Tyler McGill, because I'm all about these last chance opportunities. I think that's when guys get to prove it the most, and when they really get to show how good they really can be. And we've seen how good Tyler McGill can be with his new pitches and whatnot. But as far as I'm concerned, those back of the rotation guys, they're as they're all going to pitch to that around 4 ERA, and that's fine with me to kind of start the year. Whoever it is, I'm kind of leaning away from Blackburn because I've seen him get hit really hard, and it's not great. I was excited for him last year when he came to the Mets, but so far I'm not looking forward to seeing him pitch for us. But we'll see how that all turns out. I do hope Tyler McGill gets that opportunity, but at the end of the day, I just want to see some quality outs from these guys.
Yeah, and I think Blackburn's going to get a little bit of a leash. He did come off an injury that's pretty serious, and so I think he's going to get a little bit of a leash. And as we already know from Stearns, is that he's not going to wait around. Just like Hauser last year, if he doesn't, if after a couple months he's not panning out, he's going to say sayonara, and we're not going to see Blackburn anymore if he doesn't pan out. But I think he's going to get a little bit of a leash just because he is coming back from that injury, and he's proven to be a quality starter in the past with Oakland. So I think he's going to get a leash. Again, my prediction is Canning is going to start in the bullpen and maybe be our sixth starter, maybe, because by the time we need one, Mania can be back. Right, he's already started throwing, and so by the time we actually need our sixth starter, Mania can be back in the rotation.
Yeah, and that's the key. That there's so many ways that you can maneuver this pitching staff so that you don't have to wait around for these guys to be good. I think that's what Davis Stearns was hoping for. His depth has obviously been tested here, but I think it's going to prove that it's stable and that what he's talked about all offseason is going to be the case, that they have that depth to wait on, or not wait on, but really kind of rely on until these guys come back. And so, not worried about it. Obviously, we talked about it at the beginning of the show, but the bats is what's going to matter. That's what's going to win us some baseball games, not our pitching staff. None of us came into the year, even last year, we never came into the year thinking that our staff was going to win us baseball games. That day of Mets baseball is over. It's time to see
It's
some
not over. It's on a temporary
it's
hiatus.
on a hiatus, but it's time to see some bats come alive.
Yeah, no, for sure. And talking about bats, our last talking point of the day is going to be Alvarez, right? Alvarez got injured, hamate bone. He's going to be out a little bit. And obviously, we're going to go with Torrens to start because, at most, Alvarez will be back late May. And so the question is, which of the backups is going to make the team? Reeds, Singer, a bunch of other guys. Those are the two names that pop out to me right now because the guy that I want to see, and I think this the guy that's the same guy you want to see, is Singer to come up and do. He had a good day yesterday. Throwing out base runners, and I think he'll be a quality backup for us for at least 2 months.
Yeah, it stinks because Francisco Alvarez has had injuries 2 years in a row now, and this one really hurts because it's that hamate bone, and I haven't seen it before, but from a lot of talk around the industry, it has a lot to do with your power, and a power can be really shot by it, and that's what we were excited from Francisco Alvarez, is that he was a power hitting catcher, and let's hope that he can come back to full strength. Luis Severino on another podcast was talking about the stability and the greatness of the Mets
Medical staff.
medical staff, or even beyond that, their sleep staff, sleep training and health training. And so let's hope that they can get him back to 100%. So when he comes back, he'll be able to rediscover that power again. But again, Francisco Alvarez, I think in my book, is unproven. He hasn't proven himself in the major leagues. So to me, it's not such a major loss in terms of what we knew we had. It's what we hoped we had, and that's where it kind of hurts. Luis Torrens, though, I think is a very good catcher and can fill in the gap as long as he's out.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not going to be a long time, and I think Torrens can be the quality backup, to kind of settle the storm until Alvarez gets back. I don't think Torrens is a starting catcher, but at least as long as Alvarez gets back, he can take care of because he's going to take care of the running game and make sure everybody's in check there. So I'm not too worried about it. I would just like to see Sanger make it. That's the only thing I want to say about it. Because we are going to get Alvarez back. I just want to see Sanger make this opening day roster.
I don't know. Jackson Reeds hit that grand slam, the day the injury was announced, so he might take that spot. But at the same time, I am excited for Sanger because at the end of the day, we're going to see some quality defense from our catching duo here, which is something that we haven't seen really in the recent future. We've had good catchers, but nothing on the level of what Luis Torrens and Jack, or sorry, maybe that's a Freudian slip, but nothing on the wave that these two have been able to show in their defensive capabilities.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And the last thing we're going to touch on is the Nemo. Two more things we're going to touch on. Let's go on Nemo first. Nemo has told us that he's not 100% yet. That most likely he's going to start off the year as DH. Um, they don't sound like they're worried about it. I'm a little worried about it. I think I don't know if this is related to plantar fasciitis because of him compensating to stay off his foot or whatever. But just a slight concern. Even though they're not worried about it, I'm a little concerned.
Yeah. Man, I hate to say this about Nimmo, but his contract seems to be little bit of an overpay. Obviously, for the market that he had at the time, it is what market value was. But with what he's been able to provide these past couple of years, which is basically nothing, we got to remember that we have him for what, 4 more years?
No, 8 more years or something.
No, 6 more years.
6 more years. 6 more years.
He's on an 8-year contract, and he's here for another 6 years. And so that's going to be that's going to hurt if he really can't play the outfield. Because remember, he got signed as a center fielder, and if he can't even go out there and play left field, let alone right field, then we have a problem on our hands, folks. Because we don't want to be paying what was it, 35 million a year?
20, no.
Sorry, no, 25 million a year for first baseman.
Or DH, right? So who knows? But I'm a little concerned. I'm a wait and see. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic on this one and wait and see what happens in the beginning of the season. But to start the year, we're probably going to see a lot of Winker in left field, which is okay. As long as Siri. We got him for his defense. He's one of the top defensive center fielders in the game. And so I think he can make up for both having Soto in right and Winker slash Taylor in left. So until Nimmo gets back, and the last thing we want to talk about before we get out of here is Diaz. He came out, had an outing where his velocity was down. The good news is, according to Mendoza, Mendoza spoke today. He threw in the backfields, or Mendoza spoke yesterday. Sorry, and he threw in the backfields, and his velocity was back up. So supposedly nothing to worry about. They don't seem too worried about it. They've been honest with us throughout all these injuries. So I'm going to trust in their process. I'm going to trust in what they're saying and not worry about it. But we need a healthy Diaz to really make a run.
Again, this is why I'm so excited for the David Stearns era, because this is a big contract, and for him not to be able to put up that velocity 2 years in a row is not a great sign. And remember, he has a player option for next year that's going to pay him a decent penny, and so he can opt into that contract and be with us for another year. But we're talking about this year, and this year I do have faith that he can at least be a serviceable pitcher. Let's just hope that it's not as bad as it got last year, where he was getting knocked around and blowing games left and right. But again, that's why we signed these other guys that can be closers for us if we need to. AJ Minter was closing games for Atlanta for a little bit, and we got guys on the rise, and that's David Stern's specialty, is to develop these closers in house so that we don't have to rely on these big name stars. But Edwin Diaz, man, I really hope that you're okay, but man, it's gonna suck if you're not.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And you're right. Guys are coming. One of the things that I know I said we were going to get out of here after that last point, but one thing that we didn't talk about was the spring breakout. One of the guys that could be a potential reliever for us this year is this guy that pitched in the game, Pintaro. And had some looked like he had some quality stuff, good movement on his pitches, and he could be a guy that's coming in that bullpen. Maybe not high leverage guy, but like you said, the Stearns era is starting to build up and get momentum, and these are guys for the future. Jonah Tong looked good. Boston Barrow put on some weight and looked good. Clifford kind of let us all know why why he could be the potential Pete replacement if Pete doesn't sign a long term deal here. Because that home run he hit today, dead central off of the batter's eye, and that looked good. And so Carson Bench looked good. Jet Williams looked good today. Obviously it's a minor league game, but these guys are all kind of knocking on the door.
Yeah, I think that's um, the exciting part about this new era of Mets baseball is that we're actually excited about the prospects coming up. Just 2 years ago, we couldn't even name a prospect that we were excited about because we were putting out guys once after the trade deadline that everyone turned off their TVs. We had TJ Stewart's coming up and playing, and then I don't even remember who else was on that team. But now that we have these guys that we're excited for, even in a lost year, which I'm not saying this is going to be a lost year, but we have things that we can look forward to in our future.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to end it there. Like I said it before, this is going to kind of be our weekly schedule. We're going to come in on a Sunday, probably more likely around 9 p.m. And so we're going to go once a week. Because just gave me two grandkids, so he's a little busy, and so we're gonna do once a week, and we're still gonna do it Who's Right style, but we're just gonna do it once a week. But guys, before we get out of here, subscribe to the channel, like this video on replay. Let us know your comments. Let us know how you're feeling about all the injuries and all the potential Brett Beatty slash Luis Angel Acuna debate with the bullpen, the spring breakout. Let us know how you're feeling. Before we get out of here, Victor, any last words?
No, I'm excited for this year to start. I know that spring training doesn't mean anything, but seeing Juan Soto hit those bombs, man, it's exciting to think about the possibilities of this year. So excited. Let's do this. Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.